All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. 540-0580. That's our talk line number. You want to get your legal questions answered here on the air, just shoot. Just dial up 540-0580. We'll get you on. We'll answer it. You want to talk about a terrible car accident. You want to talk about what kind of insurance you should be carrying in case you get in a personal injury accident. You want to talk about wrongful death on a motorcycle. You want to talk about your neighbor's fencing issues. Whatever it may be, I am here for you. 540-0580. Just dial up, and I'll be here. And I want to thank Harrisburg Beer and Cigar. They had a great picnic last weekend. It was good to see some of you there. We had a good old time. A lot of good food, some beer, of course, and an amazing cigar sampler. I put a picture of what you got when you went there up on Facebook. If you want to take a peek at the picture. But it was a great value, number one. But more importantly, actually, it was better than a great value because I probably ate $55 worth of food. So I certainly maximized the event, if you want to look at it that way. And by the way, Harrisburg Beer and Cigars over on 3842 Union Deposit Road in Harrisburg. Feel free to stop over there and tell them Carl sent you. Right now I'm sampling a little of their Molson and their Becks and a little Line and Kugels. Summer Shandy, all good stuff. So if you get a chance, swing on over there and tell them Carl Rominger sent you. And I'd appreciate it if you do that. But more importantly, I want you to call me up and tell me if you don't disagree. That's one of the best humidors in central Pennsylvania. Jay, you're on the WHP 580. What's going on?
Carl, I was watching the news broadcast, I guess, and my concern, curious about this lawsuit that the governor or whatever it is, the gay marriage thing,
right,
that the attorney general decided not to prosecute. I happen to know the lawyer. I mean, they mentioned the fact that there's like hundreds of lawyers on staff that would be available to the governor. Why is he allowed, or why does he need? I mean, it bothers me that they're paying that much. Maybe it's not a lot for a former Supreme Court justice. But why go outside and have to hire all this high-priced legal help other than lining your buddy's pocket? And I don't know that he is.
Right.
Lining your buddy's pockets. You know, I mean.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but under Tom Corbett, he's the one that outsourced all the tax collection stuff for the state. And actually, there was some accusations in a lawsuit at the time that those were no-bid contracts where the outside law firms were getting a third of collecting tax revenues for the state. So I don't know. Maybe it's par for the course. On the other hand, I guess the argument goes, you want to bring in the best, you go hire them. And I guess, what is it, $400 an hour?
I wouldn't mind if it's his money,
Right.
But the point is, then why do you have hundreds of lawyers on your staff or available to you? I mean, that's politics.
Well, here's the answer. I think it's a slap in the face to the attorneys who work for the state, right, because I know a lot of them, and they're all highly competent and skilled attorneys. And in fact, I'd be willing to say this probably for a fact. There are probably a handful of attorneys who work for the state who have done more arguments in the Commonwealth Court than any private attorney anywhere else in the country, let alone the state. And what I mean by that is certain agencies and certain governmental functions get in front of those courts quite frequently. So, for instance, the lawyers from PennDOT have been in front of the Commonwealth Court, they're there day after day after day. For a private practitioner, there are a few people who practice exclusively, let's say in front of the Superior Court of Pennsylvania, exclusive. But in private practice, most people can't specialize in those kinds of courts the same way government lawyers can. So there's a pretty good argument that in reality, your best lawyers would probably be in the ranks of government.
That's my point. It's not so much you hire somebody if you don't have anybody.
Yeah.
But you got all these people. It may be, I think this guy's from Westchester, and I went through a divorce about 30-some years ago, and my ex-wife's attorney was named Lamb from Westchester, so it may have been a relative. I don't know. But, it just kind of bugs me whether you're on one side or the other. Here's another situation where I get tired of these guys who, say, well, we want a smaller government, we want to cut costs, and they, it's all out one side of the mouth and so forth and so on. So
I think now that I'm not sure if the hiring of Lamb though actually affects the clerk who's doing the. I think Department of Health is handling that, and I don't know if they're using internal attorneys or they're using the other firm. But I think Lamb is working on the one where the ACLU had filed the lawsuit. Now, let me tell you the other theory on why you do this, okay? When I was up in the other end of the state one time on a case in Crawford County, Pennsylvania, guy I graduated with and I were co-counsel on a case involving a business litigation piece with a very large amount of money at stake. When I say a large amount of money at stake, potentially they were fighting over, if it wasn't worth a few $100 million, it was worth $100 million, a cable network and the control over internet access through it, because it was the fifth place in the United States to get cable internet, okay? And the opponent was a very large cable concern, multi-billion-dollar family-run company. And they hired a firm out of Pittsburgh who then brought in the former president judge of the neighboring county to represent them. And our joke was when we'd go to court, the judge would look at us and say, well, boys, what do you have to say? And then he would turn and say, Tom, what do you think?
and connections, I'm sure.
And also just because of the prestige factor and the idea that the person gets the... Yeah. So you bring in the former Supreme Court Justice's firm because you're looking for... maybe a little political influence as well as a little extra time a day.
So we're never going to get anywhere with cutting back government or other things that I'd like to see reforms, because people keep doing the same old stuff in their interests, and that's the way it is. I would love to see less litigation in the medical field, and I sometimes think that lawyers have kind of taken over the medical field in a way, or insurance companies. But I also realize, how do you get lawyers to press for less litigation or less?
Well, let me tell you a couple things they don't want you to know, right? Now, first of all, on med-mal, those are the hardest cases to get a lawyer to take. So anybody out there who's ever had a medical malpractice potential claim will tell you, you don't walk into a lawyer's office and have me go, all right, here's the fee agreement, let's get going. In fact, I would tell you that in my experience, less than 1 in 20 cases would a lawyer even agree to let the person retain them. Now let's compare that to car accidents. I would say fully more than half of all people who walk into a law office with a car accident claim get signed up. And if they go to 3 lawyers, they're going to get signed up 95% of the time. So med-mal really has not become, or is no longer, something where there's just tons of litigation going on.
Well, it's just what I see is them, have to sign hundreds of papers because they're afraid of it. A lot of stuff they're afraid of.
Well, actually, all the paperwork they're doing, and most of what they're doing, is because of the insurance companies requiring it, and/or because of the health insurance companies requiring full documentation. In fact, doctors probably spend more time documenting for billing purposes than they do actually doing anything that they can bill, which is why they have such large staffs. If you go to a law office, a lawyer typically has between 1 and 3 staff per attorney, okay? Say typically. Some firms have different ratios. Some are 1-to-1, but that's usually small practices, Sometimes you have small practices that have 3 lawyers, 1 secretary. But if you just look at firms in general, you'll find about between 1 and 3 support staff on average per every attorney. If you go to a doctor's office, they have something like 7 or 8 support staff for every doctor.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at the back end, one of them is a nurse, right? One of them is maybe cleaning the place, and 4 or 5 of them are doing the administration of the billing and the coding and the insurance companies.
Right. Well, I guess I just brought my thing that I just wanted to bring up was the business with hiring a private attorney when you have so many lawyers on staff.
The more interesting question, what will the total bill be? And, of course, keep in mind that these billing things where it says $400 an hour and $325 an hour, that isn't exactly true either, because we have minimums usually. Mm-hmm. So, if I go to court and I work for a straight hour, that's $400 if I'm $400 an hour, right? But a lot of the contracts will say, well, actually, if I go to court, I get it per diem, so I get the whole day. So that's $3,200.
In this case, what is he actually defending? Is he defending the state's right to have a law that overrides whatever the county official wants to do, or is he saying, Is it the state's idea that we shouldn't have any kind of gay civil unions, gay marriage?
Right. He's hired to defend in the ACLU suit to say that the state has a strong interest in making sure that two men and two women don't get together because and fill in the blank, and therefore we can regulate marriage.
Yeah. Okay. Well. All right, Carl. Have a good day.
All right. 540-0580. See you after the break. Okay, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. Get your legal questions answered. 540-0580. You know, this guy, the case that the Supreme Court threw back that's in the news here, the raisin case. So there's this board out there, a government board, that's made people give up some years as much as half of their raisin crop for no compensation. It's called the Raisin Administrative Committee, this government agency of the USDA. They then sell the raisins overseas, okay, and then they use the profits to promote raisin consumption. And if there's leftover profits, they're supposed to distribute them back. Am I going to Dan here? Okay. Dan.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Dan Steele, what are you up to?
Oh, hey, are we on the air?
Yeah, we're live.
I'm talking to people. I'm having a great time. I'm out here. Hey, Carl, you would love this place. It's the first annual Carlisle Sports and Outdoor Nationals. I'm over here talking ammunition with a former Marine. They've got a gun show going on here. They've got all kinds of outdoor things. There's a guy doing a gator show right next to us, and there's a mob of people checking that out. We're over here by the Pennsylvania National Guard display. So I got a striker on one side, a howitzer in front of me, a big 2.5-ton truck behind me. And it's a great day. If you're into the outdoors, the coolest thing about this, I think, is that people are walking around having a great time, and it's a beautiful day, as opposed to in February when we're all freezing trying to look at good deals and book places and that whole thing. So if you got a chance to come down, come on over. We're at the Carlisle Fairgrounds, going to be here till 2 o'clock. They're open till 6. They're open tomorrow too. If today's no good, you can come back tomorrow and enjoy the show. There's so many different things to do tomorrow. Let's see. Today they're open till 6, and tomorrow they're from 8 until 4. And there's displays. I'm going to be in a casting contest here in around 3:30 this afternoon for Capital City Bassmasters, and so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm working on my tan, talking to the National Guard, talking to people, and checking out the guns.
Oh, Dan, I may see you down there because I'm going to take my son down after the show here. So.
Well, I'll look for you, man. If you find the National Guard, I won't be far from here.
All right. Looking forward to it. It's the Carlisle Fairgrounds, and what's the Outdoor Expo, right?
That's right. Carlisle Sports and Outdoor Nationals.
All right.
First annual.
All right, Dan. We'll see you there.
Thanks, Carl. Bye.
I am going to go down there. I'm pretty darn sure that great looking event from what I've seen. Of course, I'll get my eyeballs on it, and we can talk about it next week. But hopefully they're going to do it annually. And, I think Carlisle Productions is actually putting that on. They own the Carlisle Car Show, so they really know what they're doing. So I can imagine it's going to be first class. 540-0580. Lee, you're on the air.
How hard is it to get governorship rights over a person's decisions? Who has nobody?
Here in Pennsylvania, a governorship or a conservator are terms that are used, but here we call it a guardianship.
Guardianship, okay.
But no, it's okay, because in other states that would be the correct term, okay? So guardianship is not hard to get if a doctor can convince a court or believes that the person. So if a doctor who's unopposed basically says, yes, this is my patient, and they have a lot of mental, problems, taxes, that they're unable to make sound decisions about their own health care and or sound decisions about their finances, then a judge can appoint a guardian. And it's not hard to do, and in a lot of cases it's pretty simple to do. Once in a while it can turn into a horse race, though.
Well, if we failed to get a power of attorney on a person and she is now in a coma...
Yep, that's a pretty easy one to get a guardianship for.
Really?
Yep. Now, I say pretty easy, I mean legally easy, but here's what happens. You would come in and see me. I would file the paperwork. I would get together with one of your treating physicians and have them file an affidavit, and I would get what's called a guardian ad litem, which is a guardianship pending a hearing, okay? And then they held a hearing, and the judge would probably let the doctor testify by telephone. The judge would also appoint somebody to represent the alleged incompetent. They would go out and just sort of verify everything, and then we would have a little hearing, and then the judge would grant the guardianship.
Okay, how do I reach you?
241-6070.
Okay, where's your office? Your office is in
Our main office is in Carlisle.
Oh, gee.
Wow, where are you from?
Lebanon, Lancaster.
Well, we can meet with you in Lebanon or Lancaster as well. So when you call in, say, I talked to Carl on the radio and he wants to meet with me. In fact, is this person at home in a hospital or home?
Yes, in a hospital.
A lot of times what I like to do in cases like that is actually then meet you at the hospital just so I can survey the situation, so I can actually go to the judge and say, Judge, I was there, and this person is definitely in a coma.
She's in Norristown.
Okay, well, that's going even farther the other direction. So we might want to.
Yeah.
We might want to keep the meeting then in Lebanon or Lancaster. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Carl. Thanks.
Thank you. 540-0580. By the way, let's talk about this raisins for a second. So anyhow, the government can take your raisins from you, and then sell them for profit. And this guy out there just decided not to give him any raisins, and then eventually they caught up with him, and now they fined him $500,000 in the raisins he didn't hand over to the government. But he basically said, how can the government just take stuff from me with no compensation? And the Ninth Circuit had originally dodged the question, and the Supreme Court sent it back. But there you go. Even in America, a farmer's crop can just be taken from him. I mean, what's the next step? Well, we just need some soldiers who need to stay in your house. We're just going to put them in there. Joe, you're on WHP 580. What's going on, Joe?
I have a question concerning a parent is deceased. The mother has 5 children. The only issue in the estate is a property she owned, which in the will states just to be divided or the ownership given to her 5 children. It's in Fayette County. Can I use an attorney only to do the deed, or can I do that myself? Transfer the deed from the mother to the 5 children.
Well, you could do it yourself. You just have to know how to write a deed, I guess.
Would I go to Fayette County to get an attorney to do that?
You could. You could do it from anywhere, though. I mean, writing a deed's a pretty simple thing. What we would usually do is just get the deed, the old deed, create the new deed that does what we want it to do, get the signatures, get it notarized, and get it filed. And because you're probably looking for a tax-free transaction, there's another form we'd fill out to send with it. And then, of course, every courthouse is a little different, so the only other thing we usually do is call the particular recorder of deeds and just make sure that there's not anything non-standard that they want.
Now, is there a tax on the transfer of that property as if you were buying it or not?
Yeah, there is, but you can get the tax waived if it's a tax-free transaction. So mother to child, brother to brother, uncle to nephew, those sorts of things are exempt, but you have to fill out the right paperwork.
Okay, thanks a lot for the info.
All right, boss. Good luck. Yeah, not too hard to do, and obviously the more you do, the easier. Tom, you're on WHP 580.
Oh, yes. Hi, Carl.
Yep.
Yeah, I was calling in regards to I'm trying to think how to put it, as far as having a record expunged. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, if you want to expunge, now let's start the conversation this way. Did you get convicted?
Yes, but it was 30 plus.
Okay, I don't care how long
ago
it was, per se. In Pennsylvania, you cannot expunge a conviction, okay?
Okay.
So, there's your problem. However, if you get a pardon, then you may be able to get it expunged. Now, if it's a summary offense, that's the only conviction you can expunge after 5 years. But if it's a misdemeanor or felony, you're stuck unless you get the pardon. To get the pardon, you apply through the governor's office. You have to be off probation at least 10 years before they'll even consider it, which sounds like you would qualify.
Right.
And then it's about a 3 to 3.5 year process to get an answer.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, I guess that'd be something to call your office and.
We could certainly help you fill out the pardon paperwork if you want. I almost feel bad charging for it because it's so unlikely to happen.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
So I noticed I said almost. All right.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Bye. Dave, you're on WHP 580. Hey,
Hello?
Dave.
Yes.
Yep.
I have a question about a post-accident drug and alcohol test at work.
Okay.
Is there any kind of time frame and when that must be done?
Are you talking for a CDL person, or are you talking for a? Are you talking for just at work?
Yeah, just a forklift accident. No damage, no injuries.
I would assume because the right to do that drug test is because an accident triggers it. I'm not aware of an exact time frame on it. I'm sure it's a reg we could find somewhere. I mean, how much time did they want to wait?
They waited 5 days.
Okay. Well, and I assume somehow in that 5-day interval it's going to make a difference?
It won't show what was in my system at the time that it happened.
Right, but if you haven't ingested anything since, you should be fine, right? You right?
I haven't, but they haven't gotten the results back yet.
Gotcha.
I'm just wondering what's going to happen.
Well, the short answer is as long as you haven't ingested anything in between, you're going to get the same reading you did at the day in question. And actually, because they waited 5 days, if you happen to have anything in your system at the time, it would be gone, right? So I've never heard anybody complain about a late test unless, of course, you thought you weren't going to get one and then decided to go out and toke up one night to celebrate with the boys. So, but you're right, that's going to affect the accuracy. So I don't know. I don't know if 5 days is too long. I have a feeling that that's going to be within the window because a lot of metabolites and things like that would still show. All right?
Okay.
We'll try to figure it out here. I'll do a little research during the show.
All right.
Hang around for the next half hour or so, and we'll find an answer.
I'll listen to you every Saturday.
All right, Dave, thanks.
Thank you.
I don't know what he's trying to tell me there. If you need to litigate in a state or business, I recommend you call RJ Gold Auctions. He can buy outright or sell your items at auction. RJ Gold can be reached at 645-0061. He purchases outright items such as medals, pins, patches, tokens, awards, and badges, and most historical collectibles. He can pay you right away. RJ Gold, 645-0061. He's over on 6th Street in Harrisburg. Plan to attend RJ's Awesome Auction Sunday, September 29th at 1 p.m. at the American Legion in Harrisburg. PA licensed auctioneer AU 005798. See you after the break. Well, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Okay, so there's a little dust-up going on. Jay talked about this earlier, but the governor's office says they need to hire, and they're blaming it on Kathleen Kane. It's her fault. We have to pay Lamb $400 an hour, plus his associates $325, and they're basically trying to play politics and say Kane's costing the state all this money. Her people fired back and said, well, that's strange because you have one of your own lawyers handling the other gay marriage lawsuit and who just successfully argued it. And, and by the way, you guys also successfully argued or at least yourself, I shouldn't say successfully, but you at least argued your own Penn State antitrust lawsuit. But here's the thing you got to hear. When they said, I think the exact quote was, let me find it here because it's important. This is how they play politics, or this is how they misstate things. This was Schultz saying, the guy who hired the outside counsel. The Office of General Counsel provides comprehensive legal services to numerous state agencies and executives, but does not typically defend cases that solely challenge the constitutionality of a statute. Okay, this is where the horse manure comes into that quote, that solely challenges the constitutionality of a statute. What they're basically saying is, we do not typically defend cases that solely challenge the constitutionality of a statute. Guess what? It's very rare that anybody files a lawsuit that solely challenges the constitutionality of a statute, but they quite often challenge the constitutionality of the statute multiple ways and bring 3 other non-constitutional claims as well, because that's how law is done. So if the Office of General Counsel was going to be honest, they would say, we routinely defend the constitutionality of statutes in the state, and we routinely deal with those issues. But they are being honest when they say they solely don't routinely deal with a sole challenge to the constitutionality of a statute. So that, folks, is what we call doublespeak. They have told you something to make you believe that they don't usually do this. They do it all the time. And now, why do you hire outside law firms if you're a politician? Well, here's one reason why. How do you get political contributions? In Pennsylvania, you can give unlimited amounts of money, okay? So if you go back and you look at the firms that have been hired and you look at who they gave to and how much they give over a period of years, if I get a state job and they pay me for 500 hours of work at $400 an hour, I want one of you to do the math on that. It isn't very costly to give $20,000 in the next election cycle to the party that made sure that I got that business. Anyhow, I digress, right? Imagine that. And, of course, when we do these studies, we find that magically, companies that get contracts with the Turnpike give money to whoever's in charge at the moment. People who get contracts with the state give money to whoever's in charge at the moment. And you can just look at the patterns and the ripples again and again and again. And it's, hey, what do we care? It's just the public wheel. That's how they do it, folks. It's like the Brooklyn Bridge. They had a lot of scandal. If you read The Great Bridge and how that was all done, there was a lot of scandal and there was a lot of just wholesale thievery going on. Well, these days, it's not because of anti-corruption. We don't believe in that anymore. So instead, we create all these other ways of doing business that allow money to flow to the politicians and then the politicians to pay back from the public wealth. And that's what's going on here. Corbett administration squarely hired an outside lawyer, both to try to wound Kathleen Kane and also so that they can pump money back into the Republican constituency. And I'm a Republican, so I'm not telling you anything, right? Because I hate Republicans. I'm just telling you that's what's going on here. And of course, Ed Rendell did the same thing under his administration. So he and Corbett are actually very similar in many, many ways. Although you're supposed to not believe that. What else was I supposed to tell you guys about? I think we already talked about Harrisburg Beer and Cigar this hour, and we talked about RJ's Awesome Auctions. CDL Labor Logistics is seeking experienced, qualified commercial drivers. Be sure and tell them Carl sent you. They're looking for high-paying driving positions, both local and regional. Give them a call at 866-293-1880. Again, CDL Labor Logistics, 866-293-1880. So I listened to Ken Matthews a little bit this week. He's doing okay, yeah. So we'll keep paying attention to that, and I'm still waiting for my call. Anytime he gets a legal question on there, kids, call in there and tell him to call me. Let's gang up on him for a while. I'm going to force my way onto the Ken Matthews show, damn it. Anyhow, he doesn't. Wait. Can I do my Ken? I'm going to do my Ken Matthews impression. Oh, it's my beautiful wife. And then he says something mean about her. Come in. He likes that line. His poor wife gets beat up a lot. If I were her, I wouldn't listen to the show. That's all I'm saying. 540-0580 if you want to weigh in on a legal question here. I'll be happy to answer it for you here on the air. Of course, we were talking about the government taking of the raisins earlier. How about the NSA? Have you been following what they've been up to? It turns out that, if you read the NSA's documents, they actually are infiltrating companies so that they can get passwords to networks. So, for instance, poor Google, let's say they've got some deep encryption. And, of course, in order to encrypt things, you have to have keys, and somebody has to know the key, and somebody has to have the information. Well, if it's too strong, right, and they can't use a supercomputer to crack it, what they do is they infiltrate the companies and spy on the companies to steal the necessary information. They have a whole budget for it. Then they have the supercomputers cracking things. And then they're going around to industry trade groups, and they're going around to various products and paying companies to build in back doors for the NSA and or altering standards in a way that are designed to create holes in security. And now Google has announced that they are going to step up their program of encrypting their data deeply in a way that will make it much harder for the NSA to get in and read it. Because they're not happy about the fact that the NSA is snooping. 540-0580. Lewis, what's going on?
No, talking about the NSA, what's your opinion about those documents referring to targets, what they're looking at, specifically us, the public?
And which I guess I'm not sure what you're asking. Point me in the right direction here.
Well, we have our own government agency referring to us as targets.
Oh yeah. I see what you're saying. Okay, right. And and yeah, and they also say, they also make reference that it would be bad if this leaked out because our political masters might not like how it reflects upon them. Yeah, listen, this is wholesale, runaway, oppressive government. Nobody seems to be getting excited enough about it as they should. And everybody buys this crappy line that it's going to somehow protect them from terrorists. And what we find out is that the end, what's most interesting about what Snowden revealed is most of what they've done and what they've acknowledged is they really still can't break strong encryption. I mean, good, solid, strong encryption. And so if a person does use really good, strong, solid encryption, they're still going to have problems. On the other hand, they have developed a system to listen to everybody else in the wide world who doesn't take the time, i.e. the non-criminals, to lock everything down. And most interesting, let's talk about, for instance, Osama bin Laden, the most wanted man in the world, right?
Right.
Since 9/11, with NSA and all the surveillance that they had, they still couldn't figure out where bin Laden was. The only way somebody finally figured out where bin Laden was somebody realized that somebody was a courier and put two and two together, and they started following him around, right? So all this electronic eavesdropping, all this stuff, was easily foiled by the terrorists who simply just hand-carried messages back and forth. So once again, we're giving up all of our expectations of privacy, and we're letting the government have a giant tool of invasion and mind control at the end of the day, and not going to catch very many criminals in exchange for all that. But a lot of little old ladies sitting around are scared to death that a terrorist is about to burst through their door, and they're okay with Dick Cheney reading their email, you know?
What was it? Ben Franklin said that people who trade this deserve neither. Well, how'd it go?
Yeah, well, you know, people who trade freedom for liberty or security, freedom for security have neither. Or I forget the whole. Listen, here's the problem. Listen, when the Nazis rolled into France, it was full of collaborators, right? I mean, they didn't have to find them; they were there. And our society is full of weak-minded collaborators, or guys like the guy who called in here the one day. Well, I used to work for the NSA, and we never snooped on nobody. I'm like, well, first of all, you're not watching the freaking news because that's not what their own documents say. And number two, even if you were never assigned to snoop on an individual person, that doesn't mean that the computers and everything else they have aren't. Well, why are you apologizing for it? But that poor guy just can't accept that his government may not have his best interest at heart.
Okay.
All right, boss.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, targets. 540-0580. Bonnie, you want to talk about marriage in the state of Pennsylvania?
Yes. My husband died in June, and we were together almost 31 years. And I guess they're calling it common law, but I can't get his Social Security. Is that true?
Now, wait a minute. How long were you married?
Oh, it was common law. We never got actually married, but we were together 31 years.
Well, if you can prove you were married, you can, yeah. And they will Pennsylvania recognizes common law marriage. So you have to, if it was created before 2004. So there's a couple of ways to, make sure you get judicial recognition of it. And my understanding is that you can, in fact, win common law marriage cases with Social Security.
Well, that's what I wondered because I was at their office yesterday, and he said that, no, he says it's for Social Security, it's not recognized in Pennsylvania.
Well, it is, but his understanding of the law isn't quite right. So there's a couple, if you come see me or give me a call off the air, there's a couple of things we could do to potentially engineer a situation where you can get some proof of the common law marriage established, and that way Social Security will recognize it.
Oh, okay. Well, what was your number again? I heard it before. I can catch it.
Yeah, it's
down.
241 6070.
6070.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. See you after the break.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here. Dan Steele, you're out at the Carlisle Fairgrounds.
I am at the fairgrounds for the first annual Carlisle Sports and Outdoor Nationals, and I'm hanging out with a world champion. I just shook the hand of a world champion. Mike Sullivan is with me. He's from the Lumberjack Show of Champions. Mike is he's pretty handy with a steel chainsaw.
Yeah, I can roll them pretty good. I can cut some wood pretty fast.
Yeah, now, how did you get into that?
I just met somebody 32 years ago who did this. That's how I got into it. Nowadays, kids are getting into it in college. That's where it's popular now.
Okay, now let me see. It says here that he's a hot saw world champion, two-time gold medalist at the ESPN Outdoor Games, former world record holder, and you've made 11 trips down under to Australia and New Zealand. They have better weather than we have.
No, it's about the same. It's just, but they do a lot more wood chopping than we do. A lot. Yes, it's their sixth largest sport in Australia.
Now, you're doing some shows and demonstrations here today, right?
Yes, 4:30. We got a demo here at 4:30 today, and we have another one at 3:00 tomorrow.
Outstanding. And, of course, the show is open till 6 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow they're here till 4 o'clock. It's the first annual If you don't get here this weekend, all your friends are going to be saying, "What? You didn't go? Are you kidding me? It's beautiful weather. Come on out and say hi." We're here. I'm going to do the bait casting, celebrity bait casting contest here in a little bit. Who knows? By the end of the day, Mike, I might be a world champion too.
Come over and do some axe throwing.
Oh boy! All right, we're having fun. Come on out and say hi. It's Dan Steele on WHP 580.
All right, Dan. Thank you. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. I'm definitely stopping out there, by the way. Brian, you're on the air.
Yes, wondered about the definition of days and when a clock starts. If a court order, let's say, were to instruct a defendant to issue a check to a plaintiff within 15 days, does that mean 15 days from the time the judge signs the order with mail delivery?
Oh, boy. Well,
here's calendar days?
Yeah, well, wait, I'm going to – I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'll tell you why I don't know the answer. Okay, let me give you an example. Some things are 20 days from the date of the order, okay?
All right.
So I just got an order in the mail the other day where the judge said I should file an answer immediately upon receipt of the order, okay? I guess that means when I got it. So, and immediately means I kind of was joking. I'm like, so if I open it up at 4:20 in the afternoon, what's immediate? Well, the rule basically there is, I think what the judge is basically saying is just get something to me as fast as humanly possible, okay?
All right.
Now, on the other hand, if I send you a 10-day default notice, okay,
all right,
and it ends on the weekend, Monday is too late, okay, because 10 days have expired. On the other hand, if I send you a normal 20-day notice, and it ends on a weekend, we add Monday, the next business day, onto it as well because it ended on a holiday, okay? If something ends on a holiday that is not a national or state holiday but is a county holiday and the particular courthouse involving that lawsuit is closed, then it lapses to the next day. So when an order is unclear about, get checked within 15 days of the order, if it says within the date of this order, then we know what it means. If it says within receipt of this order, we don't know. If it's silent, what if the order is issued but the person has no notice of it? Well, then maybe we should measure it from notice. So my position would be, I'd be very comfortable going into court saying, Judge, my client you issued the order on the 2nd, my client got it on the 12th, and he got the check in on the, 17th. So, yeah, he's a little over your, or the 19th, so he's 2 days over your order, except he's within 4 days or 5 days of getting the order. I think I'd be okay with that. But why is this even coming up? Explain it to me. Maybe I can better answer your question.
There's a court order that dates have come and gone, and it finally resulted in a enforced settlement of a contract. And this the defendant's constantly missing dates, and it's sort of may not look for a technicality, but it came down to brokering an agreement. They sent a check. They sent an agreement. It was sent back certified mail, and the folks on the other end, the judge said, for all intents and purposes, there was a contract. Even though they got the certified mail, didn't act on it in a certain amount of time and issue a check. So he basically enforced a settlement, created a court order that has a time frame now that's similar to the settlement agreement that was in place. So, whether
I would think if they fail to pay at the end of the 15 days of the date of the order, you could certainly go to court, and the judge may be mad at the other side. And depending on how quickly they get you the check and what their best excuse is. But here's my question. Do you have any proof that they got the order relatively quickly?
It just says mailed.
Right. So what we would usually do is serve the order on them ourselves just to make sure they got it, and take the position that they, that if they haven't gotten it to us within 15 days of us reserving it, then we would go to the court and say, Judge, I know the courthouse said it was mailed. I didn't get a check, so I just assumed these guys, I wasn't sure what was going on. So I just went ahead and served them with a copy of the order myself to make sure there was no mistakes. And now I can tell you for a fact they had that order in their hand on such and such a day because I have proof of that. Remember, the courthouse a lot of times doesn't have, it's presumptive that they sent it, but they don't necessarily have proof, right? The guy says, I don't know, Judge.
It wouldn't break my heart if they didn't respond to this and another 20, 25, 30 days goes by and the judge then comes down on them.
Yeah,
because there was a hearing, so this wasn't like they couldn't say they were oblivious to the activity. and be looking for an answer as well.
Right. Were they at the hearing when he announced what he was going to do, or no?
No, he made that decision that afternoon. It was a morning hearing, and then he issued the order.
Right. So they knew something should be coming, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I had one of those cases because the person said they missed their deadline to appeal by 4 months, and they said, "Well, I didn't realize that they issued an order against me," and I'm like, "Well, when were you expecting?" She's like, "Well, I was at the hearing, but we just never heard anything," and I was like, "Well, we may still be okay, but it would have been better if on the 40 days into it, you started calling around asking why you hadn't heard anything." So yeah, your knowledge of a impending order would probably also go into that analysis. One thing, and of course you weren't there, but that is a good thing to do just for a practice tip. If you're ever in court, you say the judge says, within 15 days, and I would then say, Judge, is that 15 days of today, or is that 15 days upon receipt or service of the order, and have them include something in there to clarify. But obviously you weren't there to do that.
Right. The order was issued the afternoon after the hearing.
Right. So my answer on this is, listen, I would just give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that it took them a few days to get the order, right?
Right.
And so, the district judge does that. When you get the traffic ticket and it says you have so many days to respond to your traffic ticket, are they going to put a warrant out for you? Most judges don't put the warrant out on the 11th day if you have 10 days to respond. They wait a couple days because they know that sometimes people have responded, but the mail doesn't get there yet, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you'd be safe. I think you'd be perfectly safe to wait till the 15 days are up and then give it 5 more days and then say, hey, Judge, we still haven't gotten anything.
And then go contempt on the order.
Yeah. Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right, boss. Good luck.
Thank you.
540-0580. Jim Bob, you're on the air. What's up, Jim Bob?
Hey, Carl. Good show as usual, informative and enjoyable.
Thank you.
All right. I want to lay out a scenario to preface my question.
Okay.
All right. Most local ordinances and whatnot have something around a privacy fence limit height of around 6 foot or so.
Okay.
So neighbors have some privacy fences. Can't see in, of course. If I were to go get a step ladder, take some pictures up above their fence, so to speak, and post them online for everyone to see, could I get in trouble for that?
Well, these get to be the $1 million questions because we know for a fact that you have no expectation. Can you hold on till the next hour, Jim Bob?
Done.
You're going to have to wait. Call me back after the hour, and I will answer that question on privacy fences and privacy, or we'll just answer it even without you on the air. Carl Rominger here. Go to RomingerLaw.com to learn more about our firm. Look me up on Facebook. And don't forget to give the office a call if you need legal help, 241-6070. Talk line number is 540-0580. See you guys in a few minutes.